Hey everyone, my name is Caroline Cory. I am the writer, director, producer of a new film called Superhuman, The Invisible Made Visible. This film is about the power of the human mind and how it affects our physical reality, our physical body, um, and what I wanted to do in this film is not just talk about it, not, we hear about the mind having an effect on the body, the mind affecting our health, our stress, all that good stuff. And so, but I've never seen actually a film where we don't just talk about it in theory, but we demonstrate on camera. Also, we do experiments on camera what this means, the interaction between the mind and the physical world. So, of course, part of this is how do we demonstrate that? So one of the topics was telekinesis. So I was searching all over for people who are really proficient, who, in this field, who have been practicing, who are really good at it, who are credible. And of course, I meet my dear friend, Sean McNAMARA, who is incredible. I absolutely loved him as soon as I saw him, online. I knew he had to be part of the film. So, Sean, how are you, my friend?
I'm all right. I'm really happy to be talking to you this way. It's been a long time. I think we shot the film last January, I believe, in St. George, Utah, and I'm so happy to see your film come out because you made the point that there's one thing that's talking about the mind matter interaction, just talking about it. Other movies have talked about it, but you actually took that extra leap and filmed people doing it in different ways, and not just telekinesis, but other abilities that are incredible. And we all get to see it before our very eyes, and not just from one person, but from a variety of people. So I'm so excited that this movie has come out, and just really excited for how it inspires the people who watch it, because it shows them so much more about human abilities and what the brain can do and what the mind can do. So I don't know. I'm really happy for you. Yeah.
Oh, I'm happy for you too. And actually, I'm happy for the people because I feel like I keep saying, this film is not, well, it's my film, but it's not just my film, it's our film, because all the people who have been doing energy healing or have been doing any sort of intuitive work or anything like that, I feel like this film finally brings some credible validation for their work as well. And so that's why I feel like, we're all in this together. And I feel like telekinesis is one of the most visual, like you're just staring at something and it just moves, But I do have to say, and, I'd love to hear your comments on this, how because it's on video, like the first thing that comes to mind, somebody who's never done it before, the first thing you think, okay, what's the trick? Especially that this can be actually repeated. This could be copied as a magic trick. I mean, I've seen magicians do that obviously all the time. So first of all, I would love to hear how you got into this. Like, how did you get into telekinesis? Because I was never into telekinesis. I was more into consciousness and meditation. And this is more of a recent thing for me. But I'm very curious to know how you got into it, why that, and how you deal with what's out there. When people say, well, how do you know it's not a trick? How do we know this? How do we know that?
Well, it's interesting that you mentioned consciousness and meditation, because my background is in meditation. And I've taught meditation for a long time, but I was looking for something new. Actually, it was just something for me. I wanted to find a new way to test my ability, and something where I didn't have to, go to a teacher or get permission or go through some seminar. And I saw people doing telekinesis the way it shows up in the movie. I saw it on YouTube in different channels. And I saw someone named Cheryl Lee Black doing it on the channel for the International Near-Death Studies Group, International Association for Near-Death, the IANS group. And so she did it there right on video. And I thought, this is real. This is not magic. It's not a trick. This is the real thing. I found a man named Trevor7 who has a channel on YouTube. He was doing it and it looked completely legitimate. There's some other stuff out there that does look like a magic trick, or like someone used video technology to make something look like something special is happening, but it's not. But after seeing these people who I thought were legitimate, I thought, I'm going to train myself to do this. And mostly I did a lot of experimentation. It took me 2.5 months of sitting in front of this glass container before it even moved for me. And I tried a lot of different things. And toward the end, something strange would start happening. I'd start getting sleepy and bored because I'd sit there for 45 minutes. And it was just as my consciousness shifted and I would start daydreaming or having little dreamlets. Sometimes when people meditate, they start falling asleep while they're meditating. That would happen. And during that transition of my consciousness is when the object would start to move. And that gave me a clue about, I'm in the wrong wavelength, so to speak. I need to shift my level of relaxation and my level of consciousness basically to something more sleepy, more dreamy, more relaxed. And that's when I could really form a connection with the object and make it move. And then I started to treat it as if it was a chakra. A lot of people do meditation with the chakras in the body, the energy centers. And I thought, what if I just treat that like it's a chakra? And as I'm breathing and I'm looking at it with my eyes, I'm treating it as if it's part of me. And that really seemed to work as well. So after 2.5 months, one day, actually, I was very tired and I was falling asleep. I laid my head back to fall asleep. And the image of the object moving appeared right here behind my forehead.
Cool.
Spontaneously. And I had to let it just fade out on its own because I was trying to fall asleep. But it was the next day or the day after that when it finally started to move in real life. And I thought, okay, that's a clue. Something had to change inside of me, inside of my brain or my mind or consciousness in order for it to work out there. The really frustrating and cute thing is after I succeeded and practiced for a while, I showed it to my wife and she said, well, can I try? I said, sure. Do you want me to show you how to do it? And she said, no, I'll just figure it out. She sat down and on her first try, she succeeded. Yeah. And I found that now when I teach the classes, people, it just takes less than 2 hours and people can do it. Now that I have this technique that people can do, and Rachel did so well on the set. But the reason why I want people to be confident that it's not a magic trick or anything is because, it took me a really long time to figure it out. And if someone decides to practice it at home, hour after hour, day after day, week after week, they're going to notice that their relationship with the object gets stronger and stronger. So if it was random or it was because of heat, it would never change. But a person can improve their ability if they practice enough and if they practice regularly. And it can get so that someone can be standing across the room and send their intention and the object will respond to them from several feet away, even at the doorway to the room. It'll start responding to them. But that's the kind of thing that I can't prove it to someone. I can't convince someone. They have to experience it for themselves. So they have to be willing to sit down and practice regularly and discover these effects personally. So, which is a great thing that the movie does. It shows us looking at Rachel as Rachel goes through her journey of learning remote viewing, telekinesis, and discovering other things. And then you sit down with those children who see the colors and read books blindfolded. So seeing other people doing it is really great.
Yeah, exactly. And, the whole thing, the common denominator of all of these techniques and tools and experiments has to do, it's about the consciousness. It's not about the object. It's not about, the piece of paper or the foil or the spoon or, it's figuring out, it sounds like that's what it took you to, those 2.5 months, figuring out the interaction of your consciousness with the physical object, the physical world. And when you do that, you learn about you. So it's not like I just learned how to ride a bike. No, it's like you learn like your mechanics,
Mm-hmm.
So that's the reason why I think it's fascinating and it's so important. And, for those who are listening, so it took you 2.5 months. That's a long time to persevere. So something inside of you kept saying, keep going, keep going. And Rachel walks in and it's like in 2 hours, like a crash course, and the thing is spinning and spinning. It's insane. Having said that, I call this subjective science because it's really like you can't make it move every single day. You can't make it move every single day the same way. You can't make it, so it's subject to so many factors that have to do with you, because the objects is always there. So why is it that some days, it just rotates like crazy, and other days you can't get it to do anything?
Right.
Or you tell it go this way and it goes the other way.
Yeah.
Well, I find that fascinating to learn how you are. It's because of you and how you are interacting. So I'm curious because, and I want to talk about this a little bit, because people who want to try it and get discouraged, like try it for long, or they do it one day and then the next day it doesn't work. Can you talk about that? You also teach so many people. So, this inconsistency, how do you deal with that?
Yeah, well, you're so right when you say it's a subjective phenomenon. It's completely subjective, because really that piece of tinfoil or paper, it's really just a simple biofeedback device. That's another way to regard it. It's responding to the person. And we're never the same from one day to the next. We're always shifting up and down in terms of how tense we are, how much stress we're undergoing. Maybe something dramatic happened earlier in the day and we can't really relax fully. So it's measuring how we're feeling and experiencing our own mind on a moment-to-moment basis. So when someone sits down to give it a shot, if they're brand new and they don't succeed, it could just be that they need to spend more time. There's a breathing technique that I teach that helps people relax more. So they need to spend more time relaxing, doing the breathing. And when they're just right, when they're tuned just right, they'll have the effect. But it could have so much to do with what's going on outside of them in their life, the people they live with, something that happened at school or work or traffic, so many factors. But if someone practices over and over, they get better at suddenly or quickly relaxing themselves. Some people can put themselves in a trance automatically. They're just on command. Some people are really good at that. So they'll be really good at this, but the rest of us are regular people, and it takes time and applying the technique to just slow down, slow down, slow down. And it's funny that you mentioned when people try the first time and then they stop. And because I get emails once in a while, people say, I tried and it didn't work. And I say, how long did you try? They said, I gave it 5 minutes.
Oh, I'm like,
it's not that it didn't work. It's that you didn't do the work. You have to work a little harder. You have to really want it. And I think that's, as I've discovered other psychic abilities or experimented on my own, I realized it does require some level of persistence. Some lucky people, they're just natural. Their brains naturally relax, or they tune in to the right wavelength automatically. But a lot of us have to learn how to train, and it does take time and energy. So I think on some level, you have to want it. You really want it. And younger kids, they might be used to succeeding at things very quickly. So I think it's really adults who understand, if they want to learn this, that they're going to have to work and train regularly. So it's easier for adults to understand, whereas sometimes children, if they don't get instant gratification, it's more challenging. But that's an emotional, psychological thing because they're at a certain age. So for an older person, I would just say it's more of a maturity thing, patience, regular training, all these principles that apply to other parts of life, of course.
Yeah. I mean, we just taught the class online, and, with the spoon bending was hilarious because a lot of people would do it like right then.
Yeah.
And then others, nothing. And of course it had to be later. We have a forum. So they started posting. I just did it. Sometimes you just have to try and then let go and know that it could be the next day that it just happened. So there's this subjective ability is very real, which brings me to the next topic of science. Like how science wants you to be consistent. Like, wait, you made a turn this way, like 20 degrees. So you need to do the same thing over and over and over again. Otherwise, it's not scientific. So, okay, wait. Or sometimes they say, oh, it just moved like 5 degrees. That's nothing. That's insignificant. I'm like, Okay, wait. Scientifically, you're not supposed to be able to move it ever, right?
Yeah.
So explain the one time that it does that,
Hmm.
you know? So we have to encourage people also to realize that when scientists, look at something and say, "Oh, that's not real, that's not scientific," you need to cover your ears, you guys, because they also cannot explain how you can achieve something like this once and break the laws, the Newtonian laws that we all know of. And so I want you to be encouraged and not pay attention. Now, having said that, again, that's why I call this subjective science, because it's, and the reason why I still call it science, it's because you are having a measurable, significant effect. Yes, maybe not exactly the same every single day, but you are having an effect. Others are having an effect over a period of time. And so there are laws that govern this, but they're not the same laws that govern the normal physical world. And so that's the reason why in the film, as you know, I'm bringing all the scientists I know that are, by the way, we're talking about top caliber here, scientists. And we have to start speaking in along the, with this language, that this is very real because it's measurable. If it's measurable once, there's got to be a law that govern that. And it's just for science to catch up, to figure out what these laws are. So I'm just curious about your experience with that when people tell you, it's not scientific or this or that. What is your experience with
Yeah. Well, I think it requires a subtle understanding of where humanity is in the present in terms of our mental development and understanding of the universe and our limitations. When people say, "Oh, it only moved 5 degrees," that's nothing, but that's called the white crow effect. Like, if you think all crows are black, you only have to see one white crow to understand that that is no longer an absolute truth, that all crows are black. Or again, when people say it only moved a little bit, well, think about the first time Orville and Wilbur Wright flew the very first airplane. It only flew like 30 feet. And here we are today, we're flying into outer space. So you can't judge something because of a small effect. It means that something is going on there. And in terms of measurements, it's also not about measuring the effect so much. I would suggest that any scientists out there who want to look into this, measure the person producing the effect. Because I've done this. I've worn an EEG headset, just a consumer grade model, and measured my brain waves while I'm doing telekinesis. And I've seen that when the object starts moving, something happens with the brain waves. So you can measure someone's heart rate, their level of relaxation and tension. You could probably do something with the pupils of the eyes. I think if scientists spend more time measuring the human being while they're producing the effect, they'll see a relationship there. Now, maybe not causation, but definitely correlation, which is interesting enough. But you're right. Science today is about physical matter, physical changes, physical interactions. But human beings and the human mind are not robotic. We're not robots. We do not do things on command. We're far more fluid. And this effect of psychic ability to move objects or to receive information beyond space and time, we're not even close. I don't think we have the right equipment. And in one of my books, I think I wrote, trying to measure psychic effects with what we have in current science is like trying to catch a mosquito with a butterfly net.
Yeah.
The holes are just too big. You're never going to catch it, right?
Yeah.
We don't have the right equipment yet. Just like 1,000 years ago, we didn't have the right equipment to produce or receive a radio signal. So it's just a matter of time, but the human race is still very young and we still have a lot to learn. Scientists generally, some of them, not all, think we've learned just about everything there is to learn about reality.
Yeah.
And there are other scientists that say, no, there's still a lot more out there for us to discover. So we should help those scientists. Yeah.
Yeah. And also they at the same time, in the same breath, they tell us, well, we only know 1% of the universe. We only understand that much of the brain. So they really don't know the full functioning of the brain or the being for that matter. But anyway, science has its place as well. But I think it's important because I want people to, when they listen to this, to not worry about it and just keep at it. And also from my experience working with different things, with different objects, I also notice, other than the common denominators that you point out, it's about the person, the brain waves, the heart rate. You will find common denominators. But what I also notice is that, so when I work with for example, water or DNA or, or an electronic device, a machine or a piece of paper, it's very different. And so when I work with water or DNA, I feel like as soon as I focus on it, it just responds. I can feel it. Again, this is not something that you can't measure that feeling. But what I'm saying is, as you are doing this exercise yourself, you will notice the dynamic is so different, especially the DNA. Literally, I would just see it and feel it like kind of like respond. With a device, like an electronic device, electrical device, I feel like my consciousness or my intent is like pushing, is like it's making it do something, which is different than the DNA that just knows right away, And then when we come to a piece of paper or a piece of foil, which is a physical object, that I found fascinating, that it felt like it was kind of strange. It felt like it was a person, like as if it had an ego, as if it was telling me, wait, I would be like, my intention is to produce an effect for you to move. And then I let go. But then I feel like it responds to me like, well, I'm not ready yet. Like it would kind of throw back this energy that is very, very different than with water or DNA or something else, which again, I'm saying these things because we're doing all this work for us to understand how consciousness works, how you work as you are interacting with different aspects of physical reality. And it was a consistent thing. I'm curious about your experience. Every time it's an object, it seems to have, again, I'm using the word ego, but it's like as if it's like, no, I can do it. Let go. I know what I'm doing. Like, I'll do it on my own. Did you ever experience something like that?
Yeah, well, something strange happened for me that when I used the same tinfoil of paper after a while, I felt that I wanted to give it a name. So like for the tinfoil, I always called it Tinny, and we started to have a relationship. And as that relationship grew, it's as if it developed its own personality. And it's interesting because I know that there are different ideas in spiritual traditions, in science, in philosophy about the mind. And so in this, we might think, am I just sending my mind out there to the object that I wanted to move, this dead object? Or is it true that everything in the universe has its own consciousness? Or is it a mix of both? Or do I contribute a little bit of me and put it in the object? And people believe different things. I don't know what's absolutely right, but it's interesting that something can take on a personality and it becomes more like a discussion or communication. And the more that's developed, the stronger the effect becomes. So something's happening. The mind is not the brain. And either we're all one mind, or there are many different mind, or there's mind that's crossed over somehow, that it's the boundaries are very iffy, it seems to me. Yeah. So
yeah, you used personality. I said ego, but it's kind of the same thing. It would talk back at me. It would be like, okay, I know you want me to turn, but I'll do it when I'm ready. Like, back off. I'd be like, okay. And so I would, it's hilarious, that dynamic that happens. And by you giving it a name, I think you're even more kind of acknowledging that it is an entity in itself. And and so I think what you're saying and what I was just mentioned is really at the base of understanding how our mind has an effect on the physical world. Because if we didn't, then it would be consistent. We would be like a machine, like you said. It would always be the same. It would always have the same effect. And that's not who we are. That's not how it works. So, but let's see. Well, so we've been talking here. We're broadcasting on many channels at the same time. So we have people on Facebook, on YouTube. So let's just stop here for a second and see if anybody has any questions for Sean or I. Michael is here with us. Hey, Michael, say hi.
Hi, Michael.
Hey, Caroline. Hey, Sean. It's so awesome to have you with us, multi-streaming on your Facebook and your YouTube channel as well. It's really cool. So I've been watching all 4 chats. We have a lot of comments and a couple questions. So if you don't mind, I can ask a few people.
Yes, please.
I like this one to start out. And if you don't mind, it's for both Caroline and Sean. Describe what it is really to become a superhuman in 2 words or less.
2 words. That's challenging because of the whole being of who you are is more than 2 words. You want to go first, or I can go? Yeah.
Let's try that.
Well, what came to me right away was open heart.
I like that.
It's not quite logical. It's not at the logical ego level. It's deeper than that. And it's about interconnection with other people, objects, and the rest of the natural world. And so that's that openness. So I think it's more about having an open heart.
I like that. You did it in 2 words.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry, I'm not going to be a good student or whatever with this exercise. So I have a few more words, but to me, it's reawakening or reactivating our true divine essence. Because, we all look human. We have this packaging on the outside, but we have an inner divine nature. I call it divine. Because it's in resonance with the universe. And so it's reawakening, activating that aspect of you in physical form. That's why it is super, but human. It's not, something beyond human. So that's how I see it. All right. Anything else? Then we're going to continue. Go ahead.
Both are well said. If I may, I think that's profound that Sean said open heart, and Rachel mentioned becoming love. And
yeah.
So interesting.
Yeah. Is there another question? Otherwise, I would love to show. Yeah, go ahead.
A quick one.
Yeah.
One more. This is from Sean's side on the YouTube chat. What can someone do to increase their psychic abilities and awareness?
Oh.
I would say anything that increases your non-rational thinking. So really relaxation exercises, meditation, getting a lot of sleep, spending time in nature, eating healthy food, and creative things like doing artwork or playing music, things like that, and spending time with other people and genuine communication. I would also try and limit how much you watch television, especially before bedtimes, or if you're checking your phone every 5 minutes for that data. It's changing the way your mind functions. So I try and stay away from electronics as much as is reasonably possible these days, connect with nature, and anything you can do also to increase your dream life. So practice lucid dreaming or dream journaling. That'll help you communicate better with your subconscious self as well. But if you train one psychic ability, even if it's just lucid dreaming or dream journaling, that'll help everything else in your mind open up to other possibilities. So.
Yeah, I love this. But let's get back to the actual film,
Mm-hmm.
the filming of the film.
Mm-hmm.
So how was it for you? First of all, as you know, we have cameras, lighting, cables everywhere, people standing in the background, making calls because of for the next shot or whatever we need, people who get it, people who don't get it. And this is a subjective work. Your state of mind is extremely important. How challenging was it for you to walk on set? Also, you came from Colorado, so he drove like 9 hours, and then you walk on set and you see like all this camera and all these people. What were you thinking? What did you think?
I was terrified. I was so scared. I was even nervous driving there because in the back of my car, I had all these glass containers that we do the work with. And I was like, if I get an accident, my car's gonna be filled with broken glass. But it worked. I got there. And mostly I was nervous because I know anytime I try and do telekinesis when there's a camera, even when I'm recording myself, the effect goes down. And I think it's because I have a big fat ego. I'm worried about performing well. And when you worry about that, the performance, the effect goes down. So I had to get over myself, which is always a challenge. And then, so doing this in front of all the people and the cameras, and then wondering if Rachel would be able to do it in such a short amount of time. But after talking to you in person and seeing everyone else in the room, I knew that it wouldn't be a problem because of your confidence. That's the other subjective part of it. And it's a big reason why some people succeed and why some people don't succeed as quickly. It's called the sheep goat effect. If you believe in the phenomena, or if you believe in your ability already automatically that you can do it, you're going to do great. If you doubt it, if you're skeptical, if you're analyzing about the physics, or you're trying to think about quantum physics while you're doing it, that's the wrong wavelength. It's the wrong level of mental functioning to produce the effect. But you, Caroline, your positivity was like up here, and you hadn't, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but to me, it seemed like you knew it would work, and you had faith that Rachel would do a great job. You saw my video, so you had confidence that I would do a good job. And even the guys the guys and gals behind the cameras, they were optimistic, they were excited, and that created an entire environment of positivity, which produced such a great effect. So I was really nervous in the beginning, but after about 5 minutes of talking to you, I felt so much better. So it was great. Yeah.
That's awesome. I didn't know you were that nervous, but that's good. But what you bring out, like, think about this though. I did the whole film, and you can imagine the funds, the money that goes in there, the organization, the people that you bring on board, the responsibility, and every single experiment, like, is this going to work? Is this going to work? So even before making the film, I had to, like you're saying, get myself to a place of knowing for a fact. And don't forget, like, if it doesn't work, yes, of course, people say, oh, you can repeat it again, or you can cut it out or edit. Yes, but all of this, I hate to say it, but it's money, it's budgets, it's, producers, and, it's like restrictions, basically, that you have to perform within that time, And so I had to, before we started the film, really kind of focus on making sure that I could sustain that and attract the people also who would resonate with that energy and could be there with me. So that's why you were somebody, as soon as I saw you online, I knew you were going to be a perfect match. Your energy is fantastic. I loved it. And so, and Rachel, she also, I talked to her on the phone, and I told her, have you ever done telekinesis? She said, no, but I'd love to try. But it was like, you never know, right? So we really had to stay in that space. And I think I'm talking about this because this is very important. For us, we're talking in the context of filmmaking and the equipment and the electromagnetics too. That's another thing. But this is also what life is about, I feel. You know what I mean? And I still feel like when somebody asks me, can you come on our show and like do it live? I'd be like, I don't know. and of course, I've done it like a million times. And I know for a fact that that's not the issue. But the issue is the outside. Are they going to be able to shift? Are they going to be able to sustain that energy? People don't realize that. And then, if you don't want to, they say, oh, whatever. So I'm just saying this because in our daily life, we are actually performing, and you and I, in this case, it's telekinesis with people observing, but we are actually living our life every day with that fear. Am I going to be able to make it? You know, should I start this job, this career? You know, is it gonna fail? What are people gonna say? The judgment. So all this to say that I feel like the telekinesis in itself, plus the filming, is a great training, you know, to be able to, as much as you can, you know, sustain that energy no matter what the circumstances are, especially nowadays, you know. So I would love to show a clip of you, because he was like incredible. And so here we come to the set. Like I said, it's all, everybody's ready. We have sound and camera and rehearsal, and this didn't work and start again, you know, whatever. So finally we sit down, and Sean is then teaching Rachel how to move the object. She's never done it before. And I'm just going to show the clip. How about that? And see what people think.
Where you place your awareness is where energy goes. That's basically all we're doing here with this psychokinesis experiment. We're going to produce movement by using our mind in a certain way. And it's really like baking a cake. You put all the right ingredients together, and you put them in the oven, and you give it enough time, and when enough time has passed, you pull out this beautiful, delicious cake.
And no calories involved.
Yes. It is a meditation process in itself, and the way other types of meditation have those life lessons wrapped in, you see it right in front of your eyes. If you're too tense, it stops moving. When you relax, it starts moving again.
Is it working?
That is so cool to watch. Yeah, I mean, it was totally still.
It's moving.
As maybe silly to some as this may sound, sending love to the material, saying like, you know, I love you, like, let's work together on this, let's be one, you know, let's move together.
Look what it's doing as you're talking about love.
Your heart's opening as you're talking about it, and it feels it.
And I can also feel whenever I start to feel those ego thoughts or wanting to get it right or afraid of failure, then there's this disconnect.
The photons that are bouncing off of the object are going in through my eyes, the rods and cones, producing an electrical signal that goes to the back of my brain, which reconstructs an image. So what I'm really looking at when I look at the piece of paper or tin foil or toothpick, whatever it is I'm moving, I'm looking at my own mind.
Well, so good. So good. And it was exactly what happened. As soon as she said, I was like staring at her thing. And as soon as she said love, the thing like started to move like crazy. And so, do you remember that?
Yeah, something similar happened to me. I was doing it too. And I don't know if it was before or after, but I started thinking about my wife. I was just daydreaming about my wife, and suddenly it responded because my heart had opened up a little more. So yeah.
So again, for you guys to realize that for me, it's sometimes when I'm very happy, I'm just like super happy, and I'm playing and I'm having fun, and the thing starts to move. So the love also is even that much stronger. It was incredible, like as if like exactly at that second, as if it was the, you know, the cue that the paper needed to hear. It's like, okay, now I can move. And then she took her hands away from it, and it kept moving and moving. And I just want to point out, so of course we did another segment in the film about the words, the frequency of the words. So it's not just thinking like, oh, you know, I should be thinking about love. It's really feeling it and saying it as you're feeling it, because you're projecting that frequency, and that's when it works. And so But I want to also point out to the fact that, because some people who, especially those who, want to like kind of say, well, wait, what if this, what if that? So I just want to bring something up, and it's important to me, that because people say that, well, your hands are on the glass and therefore you are raising the temperature in the glass. And you and I talked about this. So it's your temperature, the temperature of your hand, that is actually creating an effect. And it's a coincidence that you said love or whatever. Okay. So I do want to explain this because actually we did do experiments with another neuroscientist, with Mike, actually, to see if, in fact, it is the temperature. And there's no question that there is temperature. The temperature is raised inside the glass. But to come to the conclusion that it is the temperature that made it rotate this way, stop, rotate the other way, stop, rotate, you know what I mean? It doesn't even logically make sense. And so we studied that with Mike, and we put a temperature gauge inside the Faraday cage. And we noticed that as we were working with it, the temperature would slowly go up. It wasn't like, like you just turned on the heat, like from 0 to 20, So that's one thing. And even the scientific minds out there, think about a temperature that is very gradually being increased, how, in terms of thermodynamics, how that affects a physical object. Could it possibly push it slowly? Yes. But could it explain that it would stop and rotate 360 degrees and stop, and then turn another direction and stop? And like the behavior of the paper is not consistent with the idea that this could be a temperature increase.
Right. And if someone trains regularly, this is where a scientist should be a practitioner of it if they're going to measure it. You do the special breathing technique, and you realize after a while that you can change the direction or the movement entirely with your breathing specifically. So let's say it's moving one way, you can breathe in slowly and then hold the breath and use your intention. And if it's turning, it'll stop. And then you slowly exhale, and then it starts unwinding. And this isn't just when you're touching the glass, but if you're sitting 3 feet away, not touching the glass or the table, that you've developed that relationship, you'll notice that the way you breathe, if you pause or hold the breath a certain way or hold it in different parts of your body, it will alter the movement depending on you, on your breathing. So it's connected that way. So it's not a random thing. But that level of connection does require investing a lot of time and training to get to that point. And so a lot of people give up way before then. But if you stick with it, you'll see that your breath and your mind both correlate directly with the movement of the object. So
yeah, exactly. And I'm so glad we had that conversation this one time, because we did study that effect, and it's not the temperature. I mean, as I said, it does have a very small effect, but even like what you just said, even when you're far away, it still behaves this way. So, but having said that, like the way I've also taught it is, first we do it without the glass, and we know very well that your hands are affected, but it's for you to kind of, make the connection and just have a feel of what it's like. Then you add a glass and then you touch it, it's okay. And then it's almost like a gradual thing. So make sure you don't get discouraged if somebody says, oh, wait, your hand's on this is just one step. And it's not, the temperature change does not justify those major rotations and the stopping and the moving. It's more like what Sean said. Of course, it's you, but also the breathing is very, very important. And so I just wanted to point this out, because there's a lot of people who question. And as you guys are trying this out, again, if you have that pop in your head, like, wait, is it my hand? Don't worry about it. It's, it would not behave this way if it wasn't you. So And also, I find that it's a gradual thing, right, Sean, for you? Like when you're teaching other people, of course, some of them get it quickly, but still, you still kind of work your way up, right? What's your experience with
Yeah,
that?
it's just like what you described. I think we teach it similarly, without the glass, and then the glass in your hands, and then no hands, and then standing several feet away over a couple of hours. So if someone's learning it properly, it takes time. And then they go home and practice and practice and practice and get better and better at it. So it is a gradual practice. But while someone's trying to do it at home, they need to have high fidelity to the technique, meaning if the instruction is to relax, you have to relax and go into your body and not analyze what's happening. And that includes doubts. If you're going, is this real? Is this not real? If you're thinking while you're trying to do it, it blocks the effect. You have to completely give up analyzing things. You can analyze it afterward. Then you can have doubts. But while you're learning it, let go of the doubts. You can get your doubts back later on. While you're doing it, just let go, relax, just be open-minded, relax, and then it'll happen. So that's basically it. Someone has to really give it some time and trust yourself, really. Yeah.
Yeah, and also because when you are doubting, you are thinking. So your mind, speaking of brain waves, you are vibrating. Your waves are in the cognitive, in the state where you are thinking, as opposed to being and breathing and relaxing. And so you can't be in both at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the reason why it will take you out of the experience. And so that's why the mind quieting is just so important. And as you know, in the film, by the way, you guys who are just listening in now, we're talking about the film Superhuman, the invisible made visible. And I know, you tell me, I don't think this work has ever been demonstrated in film format, like in a documentary format, where you have experiments, one after another, all pointing to the same, the interaction of mind and consciousness on physical matter. And so that's why I'm right. I mean, not in a film format this way. And so that's why I'm very, very excited that, for the first time, we are introducing these very important concepts, not in theory anymore. We're past the theories, and literally demonstrating on camera in laboratory conditions for other experiments as well, how this is done, how this is possible, doing measurements. And so after Sean's experiment with Rachel, which again, like thinking of, is she going to do it? Like, it's one thing for us to get our our alignment, but is she going to do it? Otherwise, how many takes are we going to have to do? And she just nailed it. It was incredible. And if you remember, I had to kick out one of the PAs, one of the production assistants. I said, okay, we're going to start the experiment. And right now, you guys start texting. Go to the other room and text, call your friends, do anything. Because I could feel that they were like projecting, is she going to do it? Is she going to do it? Not in a negative way, like not... but more the expectation and the need for her to succeed. Yeah. It was very stressful. And so when I told them to leave the room and go text their friends in the middle of production, remember, we did that.
That was actually really an amazing moment, because I remember when you spoke up, because I think I was feeling it too, but that you picked up on it and you asked them to leave, because it's so sensitive and so intuitive of you to do that. Because these camera people, they're looking through the lens of the camera, so their intention and their mind is getting involved. And if it's the wrong attitude or the wrong wavelength, it could actually block what Rachel was trying to do. So you picked up on that, and you got them to get their consciousnesses out of the room temporarily, and it cleared the way. So it was really good. And I think there's a life lesson there too. When we're trying to achieve, who are we surrounded by and what's their attitude? Because if it's not supportive, we need to make some changes, right? Yeah.
And sometimes, like, we think it's like they didn't really want you to, like, it's not like they were afraid that she wouldn't succeed. It was more that they needed her to succeed.
Yeah.
And that wanting somebody to succeed has a negative connotation, has a negative vibration, because it's more like this expectation. And the minute they started texting their friends, their consciousness, it gave us the space, and it was perfect. So I just wanted to point this out also to show how, because in real life, I mean, that's what happens. Sometimes we don't realize that others bombarding us with expectations and information about your success could be, difficult for you to find your space to just allow that success to come however it's going to come. And so continuing with what happened in the film, because I wanted to build it up, first we do this, and then we did the long distance, which I know you do very, very well. But I actually started doing telekinesis long distance before I did it in person, because those guys are up in Oregon, and they told me, because I worked with them on water and other things, and they said, well, do you want to try to move a piece of paper? And I'm like, wait, I'm in LA, you're in Oregon, a piece of paper is different. I've done it, like I said, with other devices. I said, I don't know, I guess I'll try. And so we did it under vacuum, meaning, it's a Faraday cage, meaning there's no electromagnetic, there's nothing. And so that could come in and, without getting into all the technical details, but it is a Faraday cage. And the first time it was like very little movement. And I was like, oh, whatever. And then I was like, no, wait, that shouldn't be. I did that. So the next day I did it again and again. And then, as you saw in the film, I mean, that one time it was like insane. I mean, it was turning 360 degrees twice, stopping, going in the other direction, and stopping, doing all kinds of crazy stuff. And again, for those who are listening, we take a baseline for a long time before the experiment, meaning we observe it being still for a long period of time. And exactly at 8 o'clock or what have you, this is when we start the experiment. So we know it had been still for that long. And so that's why we know at 8 o'clock, it was the effect of the influence and not just a random thing. And then when we stop at 9 o'clock, then it goes back to the baseline. So that's how scientifically we can study the mind physical, correlation. And so in the film, we show one time that was like crazy. It was rotating. And I remember on that day, I was literally dancing in the house. I was like, just I'm in such a high state of consciousness. I had music on. Usually I'm like, meditating. But that day, I don't know. I was just having fun. And so I had the music on. I was like literally like doing this and, and like looking at the thing long distance and saying, you're going to move, you're going to come dance with me. And I'm telling you, the thing was wild. Again, to tell us every time, like Rachel was saying love, you were thinking about your wife. I was feeling joy and just happiness, like sense of completion, just being complete. And that's what did it. It is such an important lesson.
Yeah. And the other part of that formula too is that you were doing this with George Weissman and Mike Wellicke, great scientists, open-minded scientists. So if their minds were closed down and they were, this can't be, it might not have worked, but they were positive. They were open to the data, which is the most important thing. They didn't just believe, but they were willing to see the data, and you provided them with excellent data. I mean, it was fantastic that you did that from thousands of miles. I don't know how far away you were, but thousands of miles away. And you're right. The state of mind you put yourself in was so positive and amenable to producing this effect. So it was great. You pulled together a great team with Mike and George there. Yeah.
And for those who are interested in, also, I noticed that sometimes when I was talking to Mike over the phone, while we're doing it, it was enhanced by both our consciousness. So this was also very significant. And we're like, wait, is it doing more? And it's like, let's quiet down. Let's you hang up, So we noticed that consistency as well. So for those who are curious how two minds can amplify, but the two minds have to want the same thing. If one mind is like, I want it to move, the other mind is saying, is it going to move? It's obviously it doesn't work. So that's why I love, this is the power of prayer, the power of intention as a collective. And so I feel like this training is so important to help us in our daily life, especially right now. How are you dealing with this whole crazy situation? How are you using these tools, dealing with the current events? And how are you helping others, apply, it's not about the piece of paper, it's not about the foil, it's about this interaction. Can you see that as a tool to help you in your daily life with what's happening right now?
Well, yeah, definitely. I think on a very basic, down-to-earth level, practicing telekinesis has the same effect as practicing meditation does. And right now, because of the pandemic and political turmoil and everything happening, society as a whole is under a great degree of stress. We're all stressed out. We're all unsure about the future. We're all scared of getting sick, or some of us are sick or worse. So that we're under a lot of emotional heaviness too, which increases our stress levels. So it's almost like we're all in a strange type of societal trauma, so to speak. So anything resembling meditation that requires that we come into a deeper, quieter part of ourselves can have a healing effect. Maybe not healing anything entirely, but it's a place of respite when we go into that place inside of us. It's peaceful, it's quiet, it's away from all the overstimulation. So we get away from that and we tune into our deeper mind. And so in that way, if someone practiced telekinesis or meditation or remote viewing or some other psychic abilities, practice a little bit every day. That's like your quiet time. That's where the crazy world out there, you keep it out, you go inside and remind yourself that you are more than a physical being, that you're a spiritual being, and that you can tap into that and see the effect of your consciousness on the world. But it's really about just going inward, and it's almost like a bear hibernating in a dark cave in the wintertime and just finding rest there. So I think when we go inward with these abilities or with meditation, we go inward, we recover, we give our brains some breathing room, and maybe we can leave that situation, go out into the world with a more rested and patient mind, and we're not so triggered by everything that happens. So I think that's kind of up on the practical level, how these things can help a lot.
Yeah, absolutely. And also, when you are quiet and clear in your head, then you make better decisions.
Mm-hmm.
Should I take this trip? Should I stay home? Should I, those types of things. So yeah, I'm always wanting to talk about the practical applications. Spoon bending, what's the point if we don't, it's not about understanding who we are and how we can apply it to our daily life. So I love that. So let's see if there are any questions, Michael. We've been talking for a while here. Let's take a break from the talking and see if we can listen for any questions. Anybody you have?
Let's see, I'm going through the chat again. A lot of people that have checked out the movie, whether they've rented it or purchased it, and a lot of people are really enjoying it. We did have one person real quick, her name and her date of birth was in the movie. She said she blew her mind when she was watching it. What was the likelihood of something like that?
I'm not really sure what that means. What does that mean that her name and date of birth was in the movie? She can, I don't know if this is relevant to here, is it?
Just a comment.
Oh, it's a comment. Yeah. But the synchronicities, yeah, for sure. Synchronicities, because like Sean was saying, as long as we're all in the same alignment, you walk to the set and, you're in a not so good space, but then as soon as you're in that space and I'm aligned with you, you're aligned with me, and everybody's aligned, all kinds of stuff start to happen,
Mhm.
you know, because we are in that same alignment. So synchronicities, you know, coincidences, all of that, because we're all in resonance with each other. So that's interesting, but that doesn't ring a bell. I don't know what name or date of birth, but anyway, so for those who have not watched the movie yet, I mean, honestly, Sean, this film is for you. It's for them because it brings the validation of everything we've been talking about, how the mind affects physical reality. It's never been done before in a documentary format. I'm hoping that you can use it to empower you. And it's the type of film that you want to watch over and over, right?
Mhm.
Because there's so many experiments and so many details that I think it's very helpful that way. So, you know, again, for those who are just listening, superhumanfilm.com is the website where all the platforms are listed. And so it's on iTunes, Amazon, Vimeo, Google Play, et cetera, et cetera.
Mhm.
Any other questions that are relevant to, you know, telekinesis, the mind over matter?
Nothing really specific on the movie. There was one about animal communication, but I kind of skipped past it.
Okay. No, I mean, I would love to talk about all these subjects, you know. Sean and I can have this conversation for a very long time. In fact, we should probably do it again down the road and see, you know, if more people have watched the film, because I would love to get more specific, you know, some specific questions like how, you know, we were able to do certain things and what that means and how they can take that training and what they can do with it. So this is such an important conversation. And anything else, or are we ready to go ahead?
There was something that someone that did watch the film, and it is along those same lines, that she has practiced the telekinesis, but a little bit differently. She's trying to get a tissue that's half out of the box, and she's able to manipulate it. And this is something she's been practicing since childhood.
Yeah, I mean, there's Sean, tell us all the different variety of things that you can do. I mean, we are only showcasing. To me, that's the way you start. You know, you want the least amount of uncertainty. So you put it on a, you know, kind of a pointy thing and you do something very light. So there's the least amount of uncertainty to start. But eventually, you've tried with so many. In fact, we tried it also with a leaf. So tell us, Sean, what are the things that you've tried and that you recommend? Do you suggest?
Yeah, I've done it. I put a dried up leaf. Actually, it wasn't all the way dry. Some part of it was still alive on the needle, and that had a really good effect. I have some videos of my wife doing it. And I think it's because the leaf was still alive, so there's some energy there in the leaf that helped. So that's one way to try. But you know, the woman who just chatted about doing it with a tissue, that's great too. She's been doing it for a long time. People often ask, what's the best thing to start with? And I like to say, whatever inspires you the most, because that'll keep your interest longer and you'll feel an instant connection stronger right away. So whatever is interesting to you. Another one that I've done is I balanced a couple of toothpicks. I made a little link between them and balanced it on the needle. So toothpicks are interesting because where the paper and tinfoil can be like a sail being pushed by the wind, the toothpicks, you know, the wind won't push it so much. So it has to move maybe by some other mechanism. So I've done that too. And I did an experiment where I was holding some light bulbs, trying to put energy into them and then throwing them on the ground. And instead of shattering, they bounce because the energy made the bounce stronger. And I only did that one afternoon because I had to learn how to do it. So that meant a lot of broken light bulbs. But by the end, they were bouncing. And then I'd throw it down again after catching it and it would shatter. So it's a very temporary effect, but it was very interesting.
Wow.
The spoon bending is also interesting. Anyone can learn how to do that. And I have some friends in Denver. We started with spoons and forks. But last time we gathered together, I brought some steel bars and they were able to bend the steel bars.
That's incredible.
And it's the same technique as the spoon bending. So it's not like they had to become stronger, you know, enhance their brain or anything. The same technique of using your intention and letting go, and they could bend something that was far more challenging than a spoon. So Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. But I still recommend that, people start out with something that has, again, the least amount of uncertainty, meaning according to mass or gravity, like that's my recommendation from my experience. I would say if you start with a big piece of steel, it may take you longer, or, and you get discouraged. I mean, it took you 2.5 months so I would still recommend like doing it gradually, but just like what Sean said, do something that's fun for you. I mean, even a piece of paper, figure out a way to have fun with it. Like imagine it's a person, imagine stuff, to give it a name. Yeah, draw on it. Yeah, I love that. Just anything to make it fun. And I would say that's my recommendation. Like start with a very pointy, kind of base to start out. But also somebody else the other day mentioned on water, having like putting like a ball or tennis ball, or not a ping pong ball or something on the water surface, and seeing if you could make it move in this way or something like that. Have you ever tried that?
No, I've seen people do it. Trevor Seven, the man I mentioned earlier, he suggested trying to think about the molecules in the water pushing the ball along. If I remember, it was a long time ago, but that seems like a really fun experiment to try. So there are many different ways to do it, but you're right. Start small, start simple, be patient, and as you succeed, then you can move up to more challenging things.
Yeah. So, all right, guys, if there are no other questions, I see a lot of comments. Is there any special question, Michael? Otherwise, we're going to wrap this up.
Yeah, Sean touched on it, and I think it carries through for healing and creating as well as telekinesis.
Of course.
Maria wanted to know, is visualization and intent the key? I think we answered that just now.
Yeah, just imagine. Yeah, go ahead.
Well, a lot of people think if you visualize really strongly the thing moving, it'll work, but it's really not so much about that. It's the intention is already there. It's more about the connection, and strange as it may seem, letting go while you're connecting. So relaxing, because if you've tried too much the visualization, you'll actually get more tense. It's more about letting go while you feel the connection, and then you hit that sweet spot. So you could experiment. Try visualizing a lot. Try not visualizing at all. Try relaxing, try forcing it, use your breath to help you relax. And then you'll find that perfect little zone where suddenly everything starts to happen.
Yeah, and Sean also teaches regularly. So I'm sure on your website, right, you have all kinds of classes coming up. And we should do like maybe one thing live, like one day we'll see. Speaking of camera and pressure.
Right.
Right? We have like thousands of people watching on Facebook. We'll figure out something fun. But you have classes. And I also just taught a series also on superhumanfilm.com, because and the reason why it's important to try different techniques. Like, for example, I notice I'm very like methodical. Like I like very specific steps, like first do this, then this. Some people love it. And some people just want to just like feel it and let go, so I think it's important to figure out who you are and try different techniques and different things and find your way, So, all right. Well, Sean, my dear friend, thank you so much. You were incredible in the movie. Your energy and the way you spoke, I made you say that line like 14 times when you're looking at, say that again.
It's all about love or something like that.
No, you said when you're looking at the object, you're looking at your own mind.
At your own mind. Yeah.
That was like, that did it. When you said that line, I was like, this is it. Beautiful energy. It comes through the film. You are incredible. I so recommend, everybody who doesn't know Sean, look into more of his work, but also I'm so happy that you are doing this work and you're out there sharing it. And I'm hoping the film is supporting you, like is bringing more validation to everything that you're doing, and everybody else out there. Please check it out. It's on rental right now. It's like $4 or something.
Yeah,
Like,
It's really an important film, Caroline. I want people to know that this is shifting people's attitudes and belief systems in a really important way. And it might, I hope it'll put a dent in scientific openness too. So I think this is going to have a really great impact on all of us. So the work that you did in putting together this movie, showing everything, you know, and all the different kinds of phenomenon, it's really going to have a profound effect over the coming years. So it's a really important work. So I really want to thank you for making it, because it's going to help a lot of people with their self-understanding, most importantly. So thank you.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And because this is the next level, I feel, of the theory. You know, we know the mind works, but how, and the science. And also today we just talked about telekinesis, but wait till you see also the other stuff in the film. Like the blindfold is crazy. It's crazy. I mean, when you first look at it, you're like, okay, that's a trick. What's going on here? But I'm telling you, I don't know how other people do it. I can speak for the kids and the adults that I've met, that I've worked with. And in fact, we just did a class online. After 2 lessons, the kids were reading blindfolded. We also scientifically measured the amount of light inside the mask. We tested the mask. So this is crazy stuff in the film that's demonstrated and talked about and shown, validated scientifically, that tells us that our consciousness creates. Like, it's like there's no question by the end of this movie, and I'm hoping this will empower people. Just go out and do it. Just try it. By the way, your mind is free. Hello. So, you know, just play with it. Try it. You know, if you change the pH in a glass of water, it means you can change it in your body. I mean, why not even try? So easy. Anyway, yeah, it's superhumanfilm.com. And Sean, we put your link as well for the other folks. And anyway, even after this webcast, it's going to stay on all the channels. And so please make sure, keep sending us your comments, because every now and then we'll just go back and read. If you have any more questions or comments, we will definitely respond. Sean, it was so fun to have you. Let's do more. Let's do something, you know, let's come up with something where we're not stressed out with all these people watching us. Right. We'll do something fun. Maybe I will do something in your space. You'll do something. I don't know. Whatever. We'll figure it out.
You need to make a sequel. That's what needs to happen.
I know, definitely. And I'm calling you for sure. All right, love. Well, thank you so much for being with me. And everybody, thank you so much for tuning in. And I hope to see you next time. Have a great weekend, and we'll talk to you soon. Thanks so much.